Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Brian and Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
What's up?
This is Breaking Down Security. Hey Mr. Betcher, how are you doing today?
Good. Very, very good.
Awesome. So we're going to get back to what we do best. We had a great couple of interview segments there with Lee Brotherston. The ISP man in the middling was very enlightening. I had no idea our ISPs were so devious like that.
Yeah. Anything for a buck, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure they would tell us, "Oh, we're doing a service because you don't want somebody on their prepaid plan or their, if they've got a limit to their internet to go over, and then they would suffer overages. So they're seeing it as a service, but by doing that service, they're introducing a possible security vector, if you will. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
And that may not be the last we see of it, especially you folks up in the Toronto area. Lee had mentioned that he might be getting some more mileage out of this story. So stay tuned. I won't give any more information other than that. So he's definitely going to get some more mileage out of this, I think. So so what is our agenda for this day, sir?
Well, I think we're going to talk about a couple of security controls out of the top 20.
Sans top 20, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to do that first and then get on to a microcast, right, that you had?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a microcast with Totenkopf. If you heard last week at the beginning of the podcast, we did an advertisement for her, and I keep forgetting the other guy's name. I'm sorry. Other guy. Hey there, other guy. It's like the three tenors. You got Placido Domingo, Jose Ferrer, and the third guy. You always forget one of them.
That's right.
Yeah, she came on and we did a quick 20 minutes on what Bsides Proving Grounds is about. And, they've got their call for papers February 9th and their call for mentors on the same day. So if you're interested in doing that, just listen right after this and you'll get to hear some of that. So we got a lot of good feedback on the top 20, SANS top 20 critical controls, 16 through 20. So we thought we would just, do a quick couple of them this time to, kind of get a few more knocked out because, they're very long and we were going to do 11 through 15, but we found out that basically doing that many would probably be another hour podcast and we didn't want to hurt your delicate ears with our general awesomeness.
Or lack thereof.
Oh, God.
But that aside, let's start with number 15, right?
Yeah.
For today. What is it? Need to know access?
Pretty much. Yeah. Need to know, making sure that people are not able to access things they don't necessarily need to access. Whether when I was in the military, need to know was a classification. It was, if you had a clearance, you could get access to secret information, but just because you had access to the secret information, you didn't necessarily need to know the secret information inside there. And the same thing in business.
That's right. It's kind of basic. I guess they teach this in CISSP, maybe. I'm not sure.
Wait a minute. You're not sure?
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer now that I think about, I'm always thinking about, this guy has to know or has to have access to this system. However, he doesn't have to have access to another system, whatever it is.
Yeah, and that goes to the whole roles thing, in a business, if you have an organization and, you have a lot of turnover, or you have, Bob, who was the director of marketing, who now works in the IT group because he got a promotion.
Nice. Love that.
He went from marketing to IT, he's,
he honed his skills, right?
Yeah, exactly. He may have had specific knowledge of how the company is working as the director of marketing, but as a IT, help desk guy, he may not need to know all the inner workings of the company's roadmap necessarily. Okay. So it's important to watch the roles of your people and making sure that they only have access to the information that they need to be able to access.
So you try to separate as much as possible the different levels of data also.
Yeah.
The less important versus the very sensitive. Those are completely different categories, and they shouldn't be treated the same. And they shouldn't be, for example, on the same piece of hardware, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And that has to do with data classification and labeling. When you do reports or you do PDFs, you want to enable data labeling. I know if you've ever seen any declassified documents from the government, you see that they've got watermarks or whatever on them to allow you to know at a glance what the level of classification is. Companies need to do stuff like that if it's for not for official use. Business sensitive, for the CEO only, that kind of stuff. That can also extend to emails as well. If you're sending out emails, you may have to put an email disclaimer saying that, either legal disclaimer or, this email is for official use only or for business insiders only. Do not distribute to clients or to contractors, third parties, that kind of thing. I mean, you may even want to, there may be information inside your company that you don't want a contractor to know about because, the contractor may be impacted in some negative way by that.
Right. They have a lot of points in this control that say if sensitive data is traveling over a less trusted network, the connection should be encrypted. I don't see why they distinguish the flow of sensitive traffic in that way. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me. If sensitive traffic travels anywhere, it should be encrypted. That's what I think, whether the network is trusted or not.
Well, I think if you were sending, because like I mentioned, there is some data you may want to share with a third party, but that third party is not on your email network. So if it's sensitive business data, say between two partners,
Yeah.
and a third party could intercept that and gain an edge, or say you're emailing a proposal to an organization, you don't want a rival to be able to look at that. So between A and B, that's sensitive data that should be encrypted. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to encrypt something sensitive between businesses. Because if it was unencrypted, if somebody was being unscrupulous, they could, watch that traffic or gain access to it. So you'd want to use something like PGP or maybe hmmm. Any of your documents would be PGP encrypted, so that way you can prove that they came from you and they weren't spoofed or modified in transit or looked at in transit. And also they're encrypted, so only the people who have your public key or only, you have to do a key exchange. You would sign it with their public key and then they can only decrypt it with their private key. So, yeah, encrypting is important if you're sending stuff between parties.
So, in my opinion, it should be encrypted in transit, whether it's on a public network, an untrusted network, or a trusted network. Doesn't matter. They distinguish between the two, like you could send it unencrypted over a trusted network. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I would say in this day and age, with as much paranoia as we have with the U.S. government and other organizations and, foreign actors and threats, that there's no reason you should not have an encrypted method of sending email. Even if it's, if you're, a small business or medium business and you can't, do the whole email encryption end to end, draft up the email in a Word doc and encrypt it that way if you need to.
Yeah, that's true.
The metadata is not going to be encrypted, but if you're a small or medium business and your livelihood depends on every contract you have, the last thing you want is a misdirected email or something that will cause you more pain down the line.
And also don't forget about your third-party software as well. You may buy software that doesn't encrypt its traffic between different points.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So you may have the software sending sensitive data. For example, you put a file integrity monitor in place and it connects to all of its agents unencrypted. Well, if somebody could intercept that traffic, they could effectively take over your command and control to that system.
Yeah, or if you're using, say, a managed service provider and you're sending logs to them, you would want to make sure that that's done over an encrypted an encrypted method, because sending your logs in clear text is not something you definitely want to do, because bad guys can gain an idea of what you're running on your network, your patch levels, what your user names are, all kinds of esoteric little bits and crumbs that can be used to help reconstruct your environment to your detriment. And they mentioned on 15, it's actually 15.4. If you go to SANS website, version 5 PDF, and their stuff on there has 15.5. But if you go to the cybersecurity group PDF and get 5.1, they've reordered it. So 15.1 says using a host-based DLP solution is good to keep data exfiltration from being a problem. Those DLP things, a lot of them require on specially crafted regexes to be effective. So if they're looking for a 16-digit number, for instance, for a credit card, or a 9-digit number for a social. So if they can find a 9-digit number with 2 dashes in it, then that's a social security number. So all you have to do in some instances is reformat the way the number looks, and then you can get around DLP solutions. So you want to be wary of trusting the rules sets in DLP solutions to just assume that they're going to catch everything.
So you're saying an attacker could take some data, encrypt it in transit, and your DLP probably won't be able to detect that.
Well, they could do that too. They could encrypt the data, and as we've seen with the recent data breaches last year, that is exactly what they did. They encrypted the data on the network before sending it out. But yeah, I mean, if you're used to seeing credit card numbers with 4.4.4, and then they change it to 4-4-4-, is it going to find that? Or is it just going to look for a string of 16 numbers with no special characters in the middle? I mean, you can exfil anything if you just massage it properly.
Right. Yeah. If you're implementing DLP, you have to be wary of that, and keep that in mind. Look for other things like amount of data being exfilled. That could be an indicator. If it's all encrypted, you won't be able to read it. However, you'll be able to know where it's going and how much of it is going there. So, and where it's coming from.
Ideally, I would think if you have sensitive data, you would put it on machines that could not allow exfil to occur. Or it would be very difficult to exfil that data. If you've got it sitting on a database somewhere, I wouldn't allow port 22 out, except to maybe 1 or 2 boxes that you could constantly monitor for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's all about defense in depth, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, and that's where we started realizing that control number 14 was kind of it was a bit of a larger deal. It has 10 controls, including one new one apparently for version 5 that
sub-controls.
It's not sub-controls. It's not new to me because I really didn't know what 4 looked like, so version 4 looked like. So control number 14 is all about log maintenance, analysis, and monitoring, which if you are a regular listener of the Breaking Down Security podcast, and yes, we know it's spelled wrong. It's because my last name is Break, people. Anyway, sorry, I got off on a tangent there.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but...
Yeah, definitely not from people on LinkedIn. Anyway, so if you've been a regular listener, you've heard us interview Michael Goff, who, as a excellent malware researcher, he knows his way around malware. His biggest deal is that people don't look at logs. They don't monitor the logs. They don't manage logs. They don't look at the controls or the codes that come from, say, Windows boxes that would denote nefarious activities.
Processes being started in different directories, anything like that.
Shares being added, you get 20 or 30 incorrect password logins, and then you get a password login on that user because he's guessed your password basically. So yeah, Control 14 is all about security logging and analysis, making sure that And this is one from our PCI days, Mr. Betcher, about proper network time protocols and making sure that you have a trusted NTP source.
Ooh, yeah, that's important. So all your logs can be ordered chronologically, right? Across the enterprise. So if, a server in some other city and a server local, did something in tandem, yeah, you could, you know, list that in order and see exactly the sequence of events and when they occurred.
Yep, and as a good industry standard, this is something I didn't. Oh no, okay, I see that at the bottom of it. You set everything to UTC time, Universal Time Coordinate Universal Time. What? Greenwich Mean Time or whatever. That's what it is, Greenwich Mean Time. But yeah, so that way everybody is on the same time. Nobody's having to worry about subtracting 7 or 8 depending on what time zone they're in, and also having it on UTC time is also a good way to hide where it's a rudimentary way of hiding where the location of your servers are. Because if you hide them in the central time zone, then a hacker would know, okay, when it's 9 a.m. my time, then I know that it's 2 a.m. their time, and they're not going to have a lot of people looking at logs or being on Johnny on the spot for watching things.
Or they're just getting to work. They're probably chit-chatting, getting some coffee, things like that. That gives me more time. Or it's lunchtime, whatever.
So let me see. 14.1 was time sources are consistent and used on a regular basis. I would say you'd want to use something that, pool.ntp.org. My personal favorite is time.nist.gov. Military have their own time servers and time services with USNO, U.S. Naval Observatory, the clock in Maryland there. So yeah, make sure you have a reputable time source, not using some place in eastern Siberia or whatever.
Yeah.
Use one that's local to you.
So you need to validate your logs. Make sure each piece of hardware is logging and all the software installed on it is also logging, right?
Yeah, it's funny. They call that a quick win, but I have worked at many organizations that is easier said than done. Because if even one person or one system is not sending logs, it is often impossible to get all your ducks in a row. It's like herding cats with regards to making sure all your logs are getting sent properly.
Make sure you have enough storage space. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. You also need to have a log retention policy. Nice.
Yeah, that's important. For PCI, we try to keep it for up to a year, right? It's something very similar to that.
Up to a year? Yeah. PCI.
You keep them from the last audit, basically. You had.
Yeah, you work from audit to audit, yes.
Audit to audit, yeah. I mean, really, it's up to you how long you want to keep them, but you've got to make sure you have enough at least to satisfy your auditor's requirements and also any contractual requirements. You may have clients who want logs to be kept for 7 years, so you're going to have to budget for 7 years worth of logs to know that, okay, you got to allow for expansion and maintenance and upkeep.
All right, anything else on this one?
Log retention policy. You want your security personnel to run bi-weekly reports that identify anomalies in logs.
Well, even if logging is in place, unfortunately, you need someone there looking at the logs. Isn't that something?
Well, I think the anomalies in the logs, what do they mean by anomalies? Are they talking like the Windows codes for ownage, or are there gaps in the logs for, like this host had a 2-hour window where there's no logs? So does that mean it just didn't transmit them, or did somebody delete them?
Yeah. Well, see, obviously if someone is looking at the logs on a regular basis, they can see when something is different. Something doesn't smell right. So you've got that human element in there.
And of course, it says make sure all your systems are logging. That includes your boundary devices, firewalls, IPS, IDS, your web proxies, all of that stuff, because that really gives you a picture and will allow you to watch what's going on and to track an attacker if they were to get in. You could say, okay, at 5:30 he got in here, 6:15 he got to our mail server, that will help in the forensic analysis later on when you have a full IR mode and you've brought in somebody to help you with that. They're going to say, well, we need to see the logs, and you need to be able to say, here they are.
Right. So basically, it's good to have a solid security audit logging policy. I mean, without audit logging, or without auditing your logs, I should say, you don't get much detail in as far as if an attack were to take place, right?
Yeah, and it's not just attack stuff too. It's capacity planning. If you've got logs that say, hey, your hard drives on these servers are 85%, 90%, 95%, that's you can have stuff set up to go, okay, once it says 95%, I need to start looking at, either deleting data or, getting rid of something, or even, I just had a point here. Let's see. Temperature controls. Your logs will also show if your servers are getting hot. So maybe your air conditioning system needs to be revamped. You're going to see a lot of excellent information that will often help stave off incident response or disaster recovery issues. I mean, if your hard drives and your servers scram because your data center's at 150 degrees, why didn't we see this coming? Well, we didn't look at the logs. The logs surely said that we were having issues with the temperatures in the building, or that this hard drive was about to fail, and we didn't do anything about it until it was too late.
All right. I think logging is very important. I mean, it should tell you everything you need to know if you configure them correctly.
Yep.
So, what are your takeaways here, Mr. Brake?
Well, I keep looking at the SANS controls here, and I see how they're trying to be as comprehensive as possible. I'm seeing stuff that reminds me of certain compliance frameworks, but I also see stuff that reminds me of best practices like ISO 27000. They're definitely trying to be comprehensive with everything. What I'm finding is that some of these that they mention, like are a quick win, are not. They may be a quick win once they're implemented, but just the implementation of them is not trivial. I mean, validate, ensuring all your logs are all your systems are being logged, and that you have a standardized log format. That's not easy if you have never implemented a standardized logging format before. Yeah, they're a quick win, but they're a quick win once you get them implemented, and that may not necessarily be quick.
All right. So my takeaway is, you may see all these controls and say, damn, this is my blueprint for security, having secure systems. So I need to implement these, but I don't think you should crap your pants and jump in. You have to have a plan. Right?
Yeah.
What I mean is, you have to choose the actions that make the most sense for your organizations, right?
You also have to choose what you've budgeted for that year, or what is a priority for your organization as well.
That's right. It takes you can't obviously implement all of these solutions or these controls because they take a lot of time, a lot of resources, etc., unless you're almost there anyway. I mean, some of these may not fit in your organization, and you'd be better served doing just a subset of them, right? Some of them you may be wasting your time because they won't give you anything based on the type of firm that you work for. So pick the ones where you can quickly push down the work as well. So that's one of my mantras is, if you take something that's very difficult to implement, but it gives you so much value, and then make it so that it's easier and easier to maintain, write a procedure for it, once a week, check this. You get, 3 weeks worth of work to begin with, and get it down to just an hour a week or 30 minutes a week. You can push that down, and what I mean by that is you can have someone at a lower level. Like, procedures can be done by operators, clerks, entry-level people. You push that down, and it gives you the opportunity to tackle another control.
Sure.
You know,
And
always
that
work
really
towards
comes
that.
that really comes from documentation, though, because I mean, if you have good documentation and good SOPs and good how-tos, ideally anybody should be able to do the job. You know, when in the Navy we had our PMS cards that, you know, when you're checking a valve on something or checking a dial, when you go down preventative maintenance of systems, PMS cards.
Okay.
I should slap your face. Anyway, but yeah, they were you know, very specific. Step 1, look at the valve. Step 2, is the valve you know, pushed to, you know, is the lever pushed all the way to the left? If not, do so. You know, step 3, watch the dial. You know, that kind of stuff. It was, and you had 2 people, and one guy read the card while the other guy did the thing, and it was a, you know, a 2-person integrity kind of bit. But yeah, if you can get your documentation down to the point where you're like, look at column A. Is column A good? Yes. Go to B. If B, you know, if you can get it down to where anybody can do it, then, you know, then your job is more than halfway done, because now you can delegate that to anybody.
Yeah, when I first implemented vulnerability scanning, there were probably 20,000 lines in a spreadsheet that I had to go through, and it was a daunting task. It took months, right? But then eventually I got it to, you know, every month you'd run it and there'd be 10 or 15 things that were new,
Yep.
right? So you get rid of all your false positives were already documented. You just looked at the difference between them. And so that I could push that down to somebody who was entry level and say, okay, run the scan, give me anything that was different. If you can't figure it out, you know, come to me and, you know, I'll help you out with it.
Yeah, unfortunately that was me at the time, so. Yeah, and I don't remember, you know, hey, I'll help you out any way I can. I just remember, hey, I'm going to kick you out of the nest and you're going to have to fly on your own. By the way, there's crocodiles at the bottom, so yeah.
Well, you weren't exactly entry level either.
That is true. But you had been there. You were there a few years longer than I had been, so you knew all the ins and outs. So I knew where to get my help from if I needed it.
Yeah.
My real boss, not you, but anyway.
You had a lifeline.
That's true. Exactly. So, okay. So before we go, I do want to mention 14-10 because it doesn't really make any sense to me. I want to ask Ed Scotus the next time not the next time, I've never actually met the man, but when I see him, I want to ask him the question about these things. 14-10 says, ensure log collection system does not lose events during peak activity. Fair enough. And that the system detects and alerts if event loss occurs. Again, fair enough. The problem comes from it is if your log collection system is losing events, the system is going to detect the fact that it's losing events and then start logging those events. What happens if it loses the fact that you're losing events?
Well, I think your question is, if it's losing events, then it may not be able to log the event that it's losing events.
Yes.
Because it's so overwhelmed.
Yes.
Or maybe the hard drive's full and it just can't log anymore.
That's true. Yeah, I want to ask for some clarification on these, because that one's, I keep reading it and it really doesn't make any sense. I'll put it in the show notes so that our fans can listen to that or look at that. So, all right. So I guess that was really good. I like your takeaways from that. That you know, having you know, the time and the effort and prioritizing those is very important. So.
Yeah, it takes something that it takes near genius to implement the first time and change it, manipulate it, massage it to something that entry level or, you know, operator can do on a daily, weekly basis.
Yep. All right. So that was it for our little bit here on the SANS Top 20. We did a couple of them for that. If you are a fan of iTunes, please hit us up on iTunes and send us a rating. I'm actually looking to see if we have any ratings right now on Breaking Down Security Podcasts for iTunes. We have, it does not appear we have any. So if, it says we've not received enough ratings to display an average for this podcast, which probably means we have 0. If you are an iTunes user, please, and I know 20% of our listeners are, please leave us a rating or something on there, or some feedback. We'd appreciate it. We're also on Twitter. I'm at Brian Brake. Mr. Betcher is at Betcher Pwned, Pwned. I guess I should spell his first name too, or last name too. Boettcher Pwned. We're on Facebook. Our fan page is facebook.com/breakingdownsec. And we just hit 7,000 followers a couple days ago. So that's fantastic. We appreciate everybody listening. I know that our the Lee Brotherston Man in the Middle podcast for Man in the Middle and the ISP went over like gangbusters. People are they either run, I'm not surprised that is happening, or holy cow, I didn't know that. So that's one of two camps that I've seen so far on the feedback. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, please feel free to hit us up on Gmail, bds.podcast@gmail.com. So that's it. We're going to leave you this week, the microcast with Totenkopf, Magen Wu. She's doing a great thing out there with Bsides Proving Grounds. So hit her up. She's on Twitter, or you can go to bsideslv.com and find out more information. So we're putting this puppy to bed. So everyone have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Microcast. It's a microcast. It's a microcast. I'm breaking down security. It's the podcast with the microcast. It's a podcast with the microcast. Yeah.
I wanted to have you on because you guys are doing some really important things right now at Bsides. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you're on the podcast with us today?
Sure. So Security Moe and I actually run the Proving Grounds track for Bsides Las Vegas. And what that is basically we take folks who haven't done any talks at national conventions. So if they've done other B-sides or like an ISSA or something like that, they're still eligible to participate. So they submit their CFP. Through a blind process, we pair them up with a mentor, and then they work together and they tweak their presentations, slides, all that stuff, and then help them out as need be during the actual day of the talk.
Okay, so this is more than just getting online and collaborating with the person. They're actually going to be at B-sides with the mentor, and the mentor is going to kind of, line, and then it'll be like on the sideline kind of thing, like a coach.
Exactly. So part of being considered for a mentor is you have to promise that you'll be at your mentee's talk when it's scheduled. So work with them to make sure that, they're actually available because it's in the middle of Black Hat. And they're also there. So part of the mentor pairing process is they choose people who are presenting on topics that they're familiar with. So that way, if somebody in the audience asks a question and the presenter needs assistance, the mentor can also jump in and help if need be then too.
Okay. All right. So that would explain why when we interviewed Lee Brotherston last week for threat modeling, I asked him if he was going to maybe try for Bsides Las Vegas Proving Grounds, and he said that no, he was going to be a goon and he was volunteering at something and wouldn't be able to actually help. And I didn't understand what he meant. I was like, oh well, you're just going to help the dude like with SANS when you write the papers after your certification, and then you're done, and then the guy goes and gives his paper, and so this is very much like, you're in the same boat until the time the talk is given, and then even then you're still in the same boat until the talk is fully complete.
Exactly.
Does the mentor get graded like the speaker will get graded?
So at the end of the whole thing, we send out like a survey monkey and have the mentors report back on how the experience was for them and how they liked working with their mentees and with us. And then the presenters respond with kind of the same survey. How did they like their mentors? Were there any issues? How was it as a first-time presenter? That kind of stuff.
Okay. How does one what are the requirements for being a mentor? Do you have to have just given a talk at a major convention, or do you have to have a do you have to be vetted? Obviously, there's some vetting done, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, there's some vetting that does happen. I mean, we're not going to accept like Greg Evans, right?
Oh wow, wow,
Ouch.
sick
Yeah.
burn, sickest burn ever. Yeah.
But yeah, so we do a little bit of vetting, but one of the main requirements is that you can be there for your mentee's talk, that you have the time to dedicate to meeting with them a couple of times, and that you presented at a major conference before.
Okay. All right. So so that's the requirements for the mentor or the veteran. So
Mhm.
for a noob, what are the requirements for a noob? They just have to have a topic, or does the topic have to be worthy and pass the CFP?
So they have to have a topic that has not been, they can't have spoken at a major conference. Um, we do a little bit of like, yeah, this would fit here. No, maybe you'd be better off at Common Ground for whatever reason, stuff like that. And then I think last year we had one talk that was just like, you're going to a security conference, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
we even mentioned the CFP that we are going to be opening up, that, consider your audience.
Okay. All right. So these are because you asked me because we met at B-side Seattle.
Hmm.
You said that I should put in a talk, but I don't do research. I don't do security research like Lee did, finding out that his ISP was man in the middling him, or guys who are doing reverse engineering of malware or those kinds of things. Maybe you could give somebody who wants to give a talk, maybe, but doesn't know what they want to give a talk on, an idea of what you might be looking for. I mean, you mentioned that I should do one on podcasting, but that's been kind of done to death by everybody. So,
Well,
um,
maybe, but not with your perspective and your experience. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to push with Proving Grounds is, yeah, there's a lot of areas that have been covered by other people, probably um, to death, like you said, but everybody has a different spin on it, right? You might go have a different process for doing a different, for a certain set of penetration testing, right?
mm,
Or you may have found a way to streamline something. Or actually, here, let me bring it up. I have some examples of last year's talks that we had.
while you're pulling that up, who's the other gentleman that is helping you out with this?
It's Security Moe, Michael Ortega. He's out of Chicago,
Okay.
and
All
he
right.
he and his group ran B-Side Chicago last year. I think they're taking a break from it this year. It's being run by um, Security Barbie and Zach Faisal this year.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're working together on
Right on.
this.
And
Yeah.
this is how many years has this been going on? 3-4 years?
Proving Grounds, yeah,
Okay.
about 3 or 4 years.
Nice. Now, do you ever find yourself with a lack of talks, or is it just the opposite?
We just, like, honestly, last year we just barely um, filled all of our slots.
Oh wow! So you were kind of hurting for. So there's a pretty good chance that you would get accepted if you were going to be put in there.
Right. We've done things like, here, I have it up now. Hackers versus auditors was a nice talk about, um, what's the difference between doing an audit and being a hacker, and how you can take the skills of being a hacker and take it into the auditing world, right?
Okay.
Because I know a lot of us hear audit and we just like seize up.
It's very adversarial, the audit program. That's why you have to kind of teach people that it's not adversarial. That it's not us versus them. They're actually there to kind of help you. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One did a intro to, like, so you want to be a pen tester talk,
Okay.
talking about her experience as a penetration tester, what kind of personalities it does and doesn't work for, um, talking about bridging the air gap and cross domain solutions.
Okay. So
And
these are going to be low controversy papers and talks for the most part.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have anybody going, hey, let's bypass, some kind of, car control and gain complete access to the car.
You could. It's just not have any last year.
Okay.
We had attacking Drupal as a talk last year. That was pretty interesting.
Okay.
How to rein in your IDS and iOS URL schemes.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
So these are, how long are the talks? We're not talking like speed talks or anything like that. Are these regular half-hour to hour talks?
These are actually 30-minute talks.
Okay, so 30 minutes long. All right.
Yeah.
So ideally, you're going to be there for more than just the proving grounds thing. So it's not something where you just want to be there, do the talk, and then go, because having never been to a major security conference. I mean, I was at Bsides, so I guess I missed out on part of that. I went directly to Goon from nobody, but there's other stuff to do there. So you get your talk in. On what day is it on Bsides? Is Bsides just a 1-day event?
No, it's a 2-day event. This year it is August 4th and 5th.
August 4th and 5th. And then you said it runs at the same time as Black Hat. So
I believe so.
Okay.
I think those are Black Hat dates. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I probably can't attend Black Hat.
I don't go to Black Hat, so
I'm gonna be at DerbyCon though, so that'll be fun.
Nice. Love DerbyCon.
Maybe we can do a RPG or something while we're there and set up a hallway RPG game or something.
Like a LARP.
Oh God. Do you think we should do like a hackers RPG or something where everybody gets to be a hacker and kind of like Shadowrun or something like that?
Oh, Shadowrun would be fun. Or maybe something like Cthulhu based.
Everyone loves Cthulhu. We interviewed Tyler Hudak about that, and he's all in on Cthulhu. He would be somebody who would sit down with you for till the wee hours with his BYOD, bring his own dice, and yeah. So if somebody wanted to submit a paper to you, how would they go about doing so?
So on Monday, the 9th, Monday the 9th, we're opening up the call for papers for Proving Grounds as well as the call for mentors. So for call for mentors, it's just send us an email letting us know that you're interested in being a mentor. And we'll have a flyer type thing out so that they know what's expected of them.
Okay.
And who to contact and who we are. And then for the call for papers, it's kind of like a form that they fill out, give us their bio, abstract, outline. And we added something different this year where Moe and I, if someone requests for a review of their CFP, regardless if they get in or not, we'll give them feedback on how they did.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Okay. So if they want the email that they need to contact you at is what?
provinggrounds.bsideslv@gmail.com.
Okay. provinggrounds.bsideslv@gmail.com. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be posting all of that on Twitter as soon as it opens up.
Okay.
And so will Moe.
All right. So past mentors, could you give me an idea of who these mentors would be?
Yeah, so Martin Fisher from Southern Fried Security Podcast.
I don't know him.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
He also helped us record that commercial we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I like that one. We'll be playing that one in the weeks to come. So.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
No problem.
And
no problem.
Who else? Bringing up the list. Thinking of folks that I can actually name.
Oh, really? Is it kind of keep it on the down low kind of thing?
Not really. It depends on the person. So like Ming Chow, he was a mentor. Richard Time.
Okay.
Mainframed. He's on. He actually. So the great thing about Mainframed is he started doing a talk at Bsides Las Vegas Proving Ground in 2013, and then he came back last year as a mentor.
Oh, I see.
So that was really nice.
Student has now become the teacher.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who else? Yeah. And then,
Are you a mentor?
well, no, I'm staff. So
Oh, I see.
I'm not
See,
direct, we're not directly mentoring, but we're there for help whenever a mentor or a presenter has a question.
okay.
And also, this might be of interest for the folks who are kind of like at the college or student level and don't have a lot of cash. We have a scholarship available. So
Okay.
we'll give you some money and that'll help you out with room. We'll help you out, or that way it'll help you out with flights, food, stuff like that. And if you're accepted as a presenter, you have access to food as well. Like we have like
Okay.
little buffet type deal set up.
So all the mini corn dogs that I could eat.
Right. If we do it like we did last year, that's how it'll be. Yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Just shove them like a chipmunk all into.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So, all right. So August 4th and 5th, provinggrounds.bsideslv@gmail.com. It's going to be a good time. You guys are pretty established. It sounds pretty awesome. Man, if I could do that, I would definitely think about doing that. Is this something you look at expanding? Maybe doing something on the East Coast at ShmooCon, or maybe asking Dave and the folks over there if you could do something for DerbyCon, like a noob paper kind of thing.
That would be pretty cool, actually, if it did expand.
Okay.
Because Bsides London has a pretty well established mentoring program as well,
Oh,
and that's where we get some of our ideas based on what they do and what we see and hear from them.
okay.
So yeah.
Right on. Okay. So I guess the only other question I've got is why so long for the papers? Because most normal CFPs are a month and a half before the con. Yours is almost what, 4 months?
Well, so actually, around this time, DEF CON opens up their CFP, like towards the closer to the end of February and beginning of March. But since we're dealing with new presenters and first time speakers, we want to give them that extra time to, think about it and work on it and submit.
Okay. All right. So if they give the talk at Proving Ground, could they also submit the talk to some other place at like DEF CON or whatever, if that was possible? Is that
So it's possible, but the problem is, so in the DEF CON CFP, if it's still going to be the same, they usually ask if the talk's going to be given elsewhere. And we ask if the talk's been submitted elsewhere because we're trying to keep away from, that whole circuit thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure. One
mean,
guy is a convention goer every 5-6 conventions giving the same talk.
Exactly.
Okay.
We all want that fresh content.
No, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes complete sense. Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to mention, or if yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Just submit early, submit often. I mean, you never know what's going to be considered a great talk.
Okay.
And just because, and we as like security folks and hackers have the bad habit of kind of talking ourselves down from doing something because like, oh, it's not that great. Oh, other folks have done that. I'm no Dan Kaminsky, So
what if I get laughed at?
Yeah, exactly.
I just like to believe that everyone's in their underwear when I talk. So yeah. Yeah, actually, I don't have that issue with public speaking. When I was in the Navy, we would do a lot of briefings and stuff. But it's really a skill that you have to hone, especially if you plan on your career is moving towards consultancy or something where you're engaging clients. You're going to have to stand up in front of people. Some people who may not have a positive idea of who you are. If you want to be a professional B teamer, you're even going to have to brief bosses and things at some point. So it's a good skill to hone. So it's awesome.
And don't worry about folks laughing at you. Actually, we've had such great feedback from the speakers and the audience from last year's Proving Ground. We ran into technical issues that ate into a huge chunk of a first-time presenter's talk.
Oh, no.
They were really nervous because they're like, oh man, it's my first talk and everything's going wrong, right?
Yeah.
But the audience was really understanding. They joked about it, just try to keep the air light.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's a great crowd at Bsides.
Cool. Yes. Yeah, the one in Seattle was really nice. Very chill, very laid back environment. So that was nice. So
And the Star Trek convention down the road wasn't too bad either.
that was kind of cool. Yeah. I didn't get to see as many Starfleet uniforms as normal, but I did see a couple of Vulcaneers. So that was pretty nice. So, all right, Megan. You know what? If you ever want to come back and do like a full podcast with Mr. Betcher and myself about a topic, please feel free to join us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was Breaking Down Security special report with Magen Wu. Tot, you're on. Wait, you're on Twitter. You're at Tottenkopf, right?
Yep.
TOTTENKP KOPH. KOPH. Yeah, there you go. So if anybody wants to reach out to Megan, that's how you can get a hold of her. So, all right, everybody have a good day, and thanks for coming on.
All right, thank you.
All right. And stop.